Why is Bangladesh burning? In one word, bad leadership. A government's source of power is the people who elects them. Well, not for Hasina-led Awami League. Just like George Orwell's 1984, this classic example fits Bangladesh so perfectly. He said there are three parties involved in a country. Group A is the one in power. Group B is the opposition who wants to topple the government and gets into the power. And Group C, the mass people who are the victims of this power struggle. No matter who is in power, both A and B exploit C to get to the power. But C's fortune never changes. Without going into too much details, I'll simplify the context for you. There are two main parties in Bangladesh, Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP and Bangladesh Awami League, BAL. BNP won the 2001 election and formed a government. During their tenure, 2001 and 5, they have committed extreme corruption, especially the then Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's son, Tariq Rahman. It became a necessity for an emergency situation, where the army took over and formed an interim government from 2006 to 8, jailing both Sheikh Hasina and Khaleda Zia for causing all the unrest in the country. Then, when they held an election in 2008, people only had one option to choose from, because they were already fed up with BNP. Awami League took charge and changed the constitution in their favor so that even an army can't hold an emergency situation in the future. She also changed the rule of the game to undertake election under a caretaker government. Instead, from now on, the election will be undertaken by her, the ruling party. The problem is that Awami League has committed 10 times more corruption than before. Nepotism and election fraud during their tenure, so no other political party had any trust on them to go into an election under their ruling.
Sheikh Hasina's coalition won 288 of 300 seats in parliament in Sunday's vote. But the election was tarnished by violence as well as accusations of vote rigging and voter suppression. Opposition leader Kamal Hossain has called for new elections. Both the ruling party and the opposition reported attacks on their supporters and candidates. Over a dozen people were killed during violence on the election
It
day.
wasn't even funny the way all the ballot boxes were bought pre-filled by the ruling party's favor. Firstly, you are not allowed to go and cast your own vote. But even if you did, it was already casted by somebody else the night before the election.
স্যার এটা তো আমরা ভোট দিছি, আমরা তো জানি সবকিছুই। আপনি দলীয় লোক হইয়ে তো এই ধরনের কথা বলতে পারেন না।
BBC reports one of its correspondents saw full ballot boxes before polls even opened.
An MP complained, "Where is the vote I casted for myself?" He got 0 vote.
তারা রয়েছেন, আসছেন, তারা অধিকাংশ কিন্তু নাকি ভোট দিয়েছেন, এরকম একটা অভিযোগ আপনাদের কাছে আছে। তো আমরা সরাসরি তাদের কাছেই আসলে জানবো যে তাদের ভোটের আসলে এখন কি অবস্থা। যে আপনি তো ভোট দিয়েছেন, আপনার ভোট দেয়া দেখছে, তারপর আপনি কেন দাঁড়িয়েছেন এখানে?
দাঁড়ায় আছি, খুব সুন্দর আমাদের এই ডিউটি দিছে, তো তার জন্য আমরা দাঁড়ায় আছি। দিয়েছে।
আপনি তো এই যে ভোট দিয়ে ফেলেছেন, আপনি তো ভোট দিয়েছেন, তো আপনি কেন এরপর লাইনে দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন?
আমার এই জায়গায় থাকতে খুব ভালো লাগতেছে।
আপনারা তো আপনিও ভোট দিয়েছেন, তো এরপরও কেন এই লাইনে আছেন?
থাকতে মনে করেন খুশিতে খেলা।
The whole system has turned into a meme, which wasn't even funny anymore. So, the Awami League has been holding on to power like leeches since 2008, abolishing any type of opposition party using extreme forces, especially their main opponent BNP, using funny cases. It has been a dictatorship and heavily backed by India. especially the Modi government. Bangladesh has become Modi's experimental ground, a pilot project, a lab rat. He would go on to try the same in India based on the outcome of this research on Bangladesh. Although the Bangladesh forces, including the army, is run by Hasina's obedient goons, such as General Aziz, who was exposed by Al Jazeera as all the Prime Minister's men. Besides that, their primary force is another state-sponsored terrorist organization named Chhatra League or Student League, who are heavily armed, funded by the government, and so wild. A group of organized thugs in the mafia state of Bangladesh. In a country where you have armed forces, these guys were given the license to kill whenever somebody speaks up against the government. And they do it so openly, wearing a helmet. Hasina's government has also bought all the modern spyware, including Pegasus from Israel, so that they can do a mass surveillance over its own people. Any kind of online post, message, speech that criticize or leaks their corruption gets picked and killed without any judicial process in Bangladesh.
Really, at that point, my interest was in making sure that someone knew that this was happening to me. So I resisted, I screamed. Eventually, I got taken in to a van waiting downstairs, handcuffed, blindfolded, and taken away. I didn't know where I was taken to, but once I got there, I was interrogated, tortured, and the following day...
You say they tortured you?
Yes.
They beat you?
I was hit, I was bleeding, I was blindfolded, so I couldn't see what was actually being done. And blood was dripping down from my face, from my nose and mouth, onto my clothes. And I was also, they threatened me with waterboarding. They told me it would get a lot worse. They talked about pins. They threatened that it would get a lot worse, and that my partner would also get
There are countless such examples to instill fear into the people's heart. And one of the architects behind this was the then police IGP Benazir. If you search about him online, you'll be amazed how much of an empire he built just for being so obedient like a dog to the PM. Recently, Sheikh Hasina had a slip of tongue on live television. She said that even her clerk made $3.5 million.
আমার বাসায় কাজ করে গেছে পিয়ন সে 400 কোটি টাকার মালিক হেলিকপ্টার
Although later she said she took steps, but nobody knows what steps she took against it.
কোম্পানির ব্যবস্থাপনা পরিচালক বলছেন তিনি এখন যুক্তরাষ্ট্রে, যেখানে আগে থেকেই তার 2 সন্তান থাকে। মিরপুরে জাহাঙ্গীরের বাসায় গিয়ে জানা যায় নিজের ফ্ল্যাটটি ছোট ভাইকে বুঝিয়ে দিয়ে ধানমন্ডিতে বসবাস শুরু করেছিলেন তিনি।
একজন পিয়ন কোটিপতি বনে যেতে পারেন, তাও 1-2 কোটি নয়, 400 কোটি।
Anyway, while such corruption has crippled 99% of the population, that 1% has become so filthy rich that the GDP of Bangladesh looks so ironic. Commodity prices have gone beyond all the limits. Unemployment and nepotism, downfall of the education system, which primarily focuses on producing obedient ships. The country has been in turmoil for over a decade now. However, to justify her dictatorship, she did some cosmetic developments by developing some roads, bridges and metro rails, so that she can show this whoever visits Bangladesh. But you'll see the real picture of Bangladesh if you look at the foreign reserve. It's almost empty. The loan is sky high and the whole development bubble is almost about to burst. That money is no longer in Bangladesh. It is being transferred to their Swiss accounts or invested on private properties around the world, so that when Bangladesh sinks, they can safely abandon the ship and live happily ever after in some tropical paradise. The sufferers will be the people, and they're afraid that in such state, a foreign country might take over Bangladesh. The news that you're hearing about Bangladesh, which states about the quota movement, is incomplete without the context given here. This movement was a recollection of all the discrimination and frustration that sparked over the years. Similar incident happened in 2018 when school children demanded road safety. A very basic request anyone can ask for. It sparked by a similar remark by the Road and Communication Minister after 2 school kids were killed while they were waiting inside the bus stop. It involved some government policies that were responsible for the drivers to drive so recklessly to compete for passengers. The Awami League government didn't think twice to unleash their Chhatra League goons and thugs onto the school children in the fear that it might turn into a widespread anti-fascist movement. That's a common problem with the unpopular dictators, that they think everyone is their opponent. If you are concerned about Bangladesh, you may already have heard about all the details about the quota system and the movement. Those are all over the news now, but what they might not tell you is how the people of Bangladesh feels oppressed and how it breaks their heart to see how an autocratic regime can take hundreds of innocent lives for nothing. It's only her arrogance and ego that's responsible. A very logical demand is being insulted and called Rajakar or traitors, indirectly towards those who demand a fair opportunity for jobs and admission into public institutions.
তার মানে কি মুক্তিযোদ্ধা সন্তান নাতিপুতিরা কেউ মেধাবী না, যত রাজাকারের বাচ্চারা নাতিপুতি হলো মেধাবী, তাই না?
She is against it because she wants her own thugs to be systematically placed everywhere in the country to hold on to her power. As of today, she declared a curfew against her own people after already taking hundreds of lives. She did order a shoot to kill since day 1 of the protest. This could be very easily avoided with some dialogues. Instead, she chose to suppress it using extreme forces. Videos and photos emerged online showing how brutally the police and the terrorist Student League are killing and injuring students, including girls.
গুলি খাইছে একটা।
And she has cut off the country from the whole world by turning off the internet and any kind of communication in 2024. Can you believe that? You wouldn't see the videos of Gaza if Israel had gone that far, irrespective of the outcome of these atrocities by the psychopathic, bloodthirsty crime minister. Whether she succeeds in holding on to power or not, she will go down in history as one of the worst dictators of all time for her everlasting greed of power. She has lost all the credibilities to run a country a long time ago. Despite all these, her followers would argue that where's an alternative? Well, my friend, if your house is on fire, you don't think about an alternative house, right? You have to abandon that. Bangladesh is full of supremely talented people, and there are honest leaders within them. Today or tomorrow, it has to end. If you are still afraid of not speaking up against the Mafia Queen, well, shame on you. It's better to live one day like a lion than living 1,000 years like a sheep. So, come on, take the streets. Join the movement to abolish all the corrupt parties and leaders who failed us over the years. Form a new leadership and create a prosperous Bangladesh. This is the land of gold and has immense potential to grow into a major powerhouse. All we need is a good leader to lead us like a father, not like an angry monster.